All right. So just a couple reminders to start off with. Try to keep up with your assignments daily. You can sort of add there, email me, or let me know if you're having trouble with something. We maybe can set up a one-on-one Google Meet. Make sure you check your Canvas grades daily. We can't put anything in PowerSchool yet. So grades will be in your Canvas grades. And missing assignments, I have it automatically put a 0 in until you complete it so that you see what will happen if you don't complete them. And then if you miss a Google Meet, I try to put the recordings up by that afternoon so that you can watch them and see what you missed. So just a few reminders. So I want to go back to our Canvas here. Just remember your home page here. Let me get in student view. Yesterday in the recording, I had talked about the course notifications. If you're getting a lot of emails in your school email that's from Canvas, every time I create a new assignment or something like that, sometimes it sends students an email. If you click here, view course notifications, you can turn that off. So if it's green, you're going to get those emails. If you just click on it, and I can't do it because I'm in a student view. Um, I'm not a true student when I'm in student view, so mine won't stay in the off. But when it's gray like that, it's off, and you won't get those notifications, and it won't clog up your email. Some students said last semester that they got all confused because of they couldn't find emails because of all the Canvas emails that kept popping in. So that's a good thing to look at. Under Canvas help here, just to go there, I did put a little video on how to do that that you can watch. And as I come across things that people struggle with, I'll create a video and put it there for extra help. In the other links, um, I may try to go in here, put the different Google Meet recordings just so that you have them and they're listed there so that you don't always have to scroll through each, it's weird, through each page or through the modules to find it. So I added the first days. I haven't added the others. The others are within the modules. So if we go to today's activities, and you just click on grades to see your grades there. From last week, there was an introduction, and that's graded because it has points there. There was a class syllabus you just have to read. There's no little pencil, or it doesn't have a due date underneath it, so it's something you read. This student information is just a form for you to fill out. And then here was the Google Meet recording from day one. And I think I also put from day two uh, I'll click on it from the notes as well. Let me make sure I did that. Yes, so I did day one and then day two with the notes. So they're both there. Back. Last Friday, we did have to have Google Meet, since I said see Google Meet recording page under January 7th. We did these notes. If you watch that recording or just go through the PowerPoint, it's just fill in the blank. Ed Puzzle videos, you just watch a video and it stops and asks you questions. And then there's a science practice. So these are some things that may or may not be missing. So make sure you go back and check on that. So yesterday I went through the CER explanation. So if for this activity here, you can get a 100 if you watch this and type in everything that I typed as I went through and did it. And that will give you an easy 100 because we did it together. But you have to watch the explanation and fill it in as you watch it. There was also yesterday a getting started assessment. and that went back and it had questions on scientific method and your class syllabus. So if you didn't get those yesterday, make sure you do them. You can't back up and do attendance from past days, but the other things you can. So today we're going to start with the attendance. And so I would suggest that you do it as we do it because I'm going to go through and I'm a day behind. So I'm going to go through and we're going to do these together. Why isn't there a submit button? All right, let me see what I did wrong. There should be a submit button because I've done these before. I may not have checked it right. Yeah, I didn't add a submission. So let me go in and fix that. So once I fix this, you may have to refresh so that you can get it. So when I go back into student view, you should now see a submit assignment. So if you click on it, we're going to do this together. You get your text box. So we're going to number them. It makes it easier for me if you number them. And I'd gotten off a day, so I'd planned on us talking about these things yesterday, and it didn't happen. So, how do you smell a substance in a lab? So, if this was a beaker and I wanted to smell, we don't just stick our nose up and smell. We actually do something called wafting or wafting, depending on how you choose to say it. And it is spelled WAFTING. So we waft or waft. You don't want to, because of chemicals, you don't want to stick your nose right up at on the beaker. And what should you wear to protect your clothes in a lab? And that would be a lab apron or lab coat. And what if something breaks, what should you do first? You don't clean it up. You tell the teacher and you let me clean it up so that you don't risk getting harmed by the broken glass. How should girls wear their hair in lab? And this could be guys who have long hair. Um, so if you've got long hair that is probably longer than what mine is here, you would want to wear it up in a ponytail. So long hair needs to be up so that it will not get into any of the substances. And then how should your lab station always look? You want it to be neat um, and after you're finished, clean. So neat and clean. And so you answer those, and then you submit. So if we do it together, it's 5 extra credit points because there were 5 questions. And if you type in exactly what I have, that'll get you your 5 extra credit points. And so I'm just going to submit assignment here. And when you submit it, you get this graffiti that falls down. If you hit submit before you're finished, or if you did it and didn't watch this recording, then you can go back and you can resubmit and change your answers. Again, this assignment will close out at 11:59 tonight, so you have all day to make sure you get that. For those that are online, we do it together. So I'm just going to click on modules to go back. So we've done the attendance for today, January 12th. This is where I'm going to put the recording for today. And we're going to talk a little bit about lab safety and equipment. So you may want to do this with me. These are notes. They're real simple. They're fill in the blank. You're going to go through, I'm going to go through the PowerPoint, and you can fill in down here. If you're not familiar with Kami, all you're going to do is click on the text box. And as we go through, you fill in the blanks, typing in what is missing. When you're done, you're going to click submit up here, and it'll bring up a little drop-down box, and you click submit, I think, a second time. So we're going to talk about the lab safety and equipment. kind of go through it fairly quick. I always have some vocabulary at the front that you can look through. So if we were face to face, we would do some labs together, especially here. I try to do one per unit. I'm trying to find a way to find some online labs that are better than what I used last semester. So we may have that option for when we're not face to face. We'll probably even use them when we're face to face because it's hard to do. I like to work in groups and things like that, and we can't with the social distancing. So here's some guidelines. Anytime we do a lab, or this goes with any assignment, make sure you read all the way through it before you do anything else. And with labs, is especially important so that you make sure you understand what's going on and you're not confused and you can ask questions. Um, Wherever you're doing the lab, you want to keep it neat and organized to avoid any spilling or breaking of anything. Usually you'll have something to write with and a lab paper, or maybe your Chromebook if the information is going to be on the computer. If there is any type of emergency, you always tell the teacher before doing anything else. So no matter how minor, if you get a paper cut, you need to tell me. You break something, you find a piece of glassware that's chipped. Um, anything that is out of the ordinary, you need to let the teacher know so we can take care of it. You want to take your lab serious. You don't want to be goofing around because you can make spills, break things, and it can, cause some delays in us getting things finished. When in doubt, when you're doing a lab, ask me. If you're not sure what's going on and we're face to face, you need to ask. If you're working remotely on an online lab and you get stuck, stop, email me, text me so that I can walk you through it. Lab safety and some equipment. Here's some equipment. We don't use some of these first three here, the goggles, the apron, or the heat resistant gloves. Most of the things that we use that we do labs, if we're hands on, will be household products. And so they're not going, to involve needing this equipment. If we're heating something, usually I'm the one heating it. And so I will dealing with touching the heated material. So you just need to be familiar with what the purpose of each of these are. Lab safety where it comes to fires. To prevent fires, you don't walk away from an open flame or a plugged in hot plate. So we don't have gas here, so we don't have open flames, but we do have one hot plate. And you don't go away and leave it plugged in. If we were going to leave the room, we would at least unplug it. That's just a preventative. Keeping your hair tied back, especially if we were in lab with gas, is important so that your hair doesn't fall into the flame. Loose jewelry and clothing, so like this keychain I have around my neck, my mask that I wear around my neck. If it was like a loose necklace or whatever, it can get into whatever we're working on, and so you don't want to have that, or baggy sleeves and so forth. Fire extinguisher, we have a fire extinguisher. It is to my left in the back corner by the exit door. To use a fire extinguisher, you should pull the clip, you aim toward the base of the fire, you squeeze the trigger, and you sweep back and forth. So pull, aim, squeeze, sweep. So pass helps us with that. We don't have a fire blanket, but if a person is on fire and not laying down, you would place the blanket on them. Otherwise, they're going to stop, drop, and roll like we've always been taught. If they're standing up, we're not going to use a fire blanket because it could begin to work like a chimney and pull up the smoke and pull up the flames, and it could cause it to be worse. So if they're laying down, we can do that. Otherwise, you want to stop, drop, and roll. Chemicals in the lab. We don't eat or drink in the lab, and we don't taste anything that we're doing in the lab. Here's the smelling that we talked about in the attendance. We've got the wafting, and that is just waving your hand over to smell it so you don't get that chemical up in your nose and it can burn, cause your nose to burn. Gloves when handling chemicals. There's a I will dispose of chemicals. There's a way to dispose of them. Some have to be diluted. Some, and not all of them can be poured down the sink. So we want to dispose of them correctly. If you get a chemical on yourself, there we have an eye wash, and it's to my right, and there is a sink over there that has an eye wash. We do not have a shower, so if we were to get a chemical on our body somehow, we don't have the safety shower, but we do have the eye wash. Oh, all right, so that's it. All right, glassware. So hot glass looks pretty much like cold glass, so you always want to be careful when you're handling equipment, especially if we've been heating something. Broken glass, we don't throw in the trash can because then the custodians could get harmed. We are supposed to have a special glass disposal to do that. So if something is broken or cracked, you need to let me know. Closed-toed shoes and long pants are the safest in case you do spill something. Lab equipment. So we're some of these we use, some you don't. You just need to be familiar with them. We're just going to focus on a few. This is what is a mortar and pestle, and it is for grinding a powder into solids. So you have a little bowl like, and you will hammer and grind up. We don't have one of these in the lab, so we wouldn't be using this. This is what is called a watch glass. It is what we usually put over a beaker to prevent splattering, especially if we were heating it. Um, and those are two that we don't have. We do have a graduated cylinder, and they look like this. And these measure precise volume measurements because see all these little lines? It allows you to make a precise measurement. Erlenmeyer flask mainly is used to heat liquids, but notice they do have increments. You can measure them and it can hold liquids. The measuring's not going to be as precise as the graduated cylinder. And then we have the beaker here. And the beaker we can hold, we can mix, we can heat. You can measure some liquids. You don't want to measure solids in here, but you measure liquids. But again, it's not got as close of increments, so it's not as precise as the graduated cylinder. So you'll need to know the difference between those three. Test tubes, do use these for small chemical reactions, and they can't stand up on their own, so you'll use a test tube rack. And you have a test tube holder that we would use if we were heating them over a flame. And if we were heating it, you wouldn't tilt it toward you or toward someone else. You want to tilt it away from you so if something splatters, it would not get on you. And you may see a question about that there. We use a hot plate. Ours doesn't look exactly like this. The whole top heats up. It doesn't have a specific burner. If we were at a traditional high school and you took chemistry, you would probably see a Bunsen burner and have a chance to use that. You have to have a ring stand with an iron ring on it to place the Bunsen burner under. And this wire gauze right here to help hold the beaker. And so whatever you're heating with, you would sit here, turn on the flame here, and it would heat. But would use the hot plate. A digital scale. We do not have a digital scale, which reminds me that might be something I can ask for. Um, I had bought some sort of cheap ones at Walmart, and they don't give it, if it's too light, it won't register it. But that's what we use. We also have a triple beam balance that we use as well. Here is a meter stick. You will use a meter stick or a metric ruler, and we do all measuring in the metric system. And then thermometers. This would be an outdoor thermometer because of how it is sitting, or a room thermometer. You would have one that would have the markings on the actual glass to measure liquids, but it's measuring degrees Fahrenheit and Celsius, and usually it'll have both on there. We tend to use Celsius in the science lab. And then beaker tongs. These would be used to move or hold a hot beaker. You have a funnel if we were transferring liquids from a large container to a smaller container, or to one that had a narrow opening. This is a spatula, and it allows you to scoop up a little bit of solid and put it into a larger container, or from a large container to a smaller one. This is a pipette, and a pipette is going to have these little measurements on there. We tend to call it a dropper, but it's really a pipette. This would be what a dropper would look like. A lot of droppers are now pipettes. If you think about a little kid getting medicine, you call it a dropper, medicine dropper. It's got precise amounts on it. It's really a pipette. But we just interchange those two a lot. So if it's got measurement marks on it, it's a pipette. If it doesn't have measurements, it is a dropper. All right, so that would take you through all of the notes here, and you would just fill in the blanks following that PowerPoint. So if you didn't do it as I went through it, you can go back and go through here and fill in the notes and submit. This is an easy 20 points where you can get 100 real easily, because there's really not much thought that goes into it. It's just filling in the blanks. Sometimes at the very end, there's a summary. I'm not requiring that. So if you want to do it, that's great. But I'm not requiring it. Just filling in the blanks is all that I'm requiring at this moment. All right, so that is the main part of today's lesson. So some things that you're going to be doing to practice with this is there are two videos. They're both less than 10 minutes. You watch them and you will answer questions when the video pauses. If you're not sure of the answer, there'll be a button that says rewatch. But once you check the answer, you can't, or you choose an answer, you can't go back. And it'll tell you if you got it right or wrong once you've submitted your answer. You've got two sheets here, but notice that these you get started on them today, but they're not officially due until tomorrow. So that gives you about 2 days, but we will be doing some other work tomorrow. I don't have it listed. So, and it's going to deal with still this lab safety. So you've got 2 days to work on these last two items here. But just to get an idea of what they look like, again, they're in Kami. And when they come up, you may have to do this if you haven't opened a Kami yet, just to authorize your Google Drive. And it'll pull up a window which you can't see right now, and you choose your school email, and then it will pull this up. So if you haven't opened up one of these yet, you may have to go through that. Here are different lab scenarios. So you're going to go through, and if you look at the directions, it says identify what is inappropriate lab behavior. So what is it they're doing wrong? And then tell me how they should do it correctly. All right, and so again, you're going to get a text box, you click, and you'll type that in. You can use the highlighter or the drawing tool to underline or highlight as you read it if you want. So you're going to do those. And then the next item, so that goes over lab safety. And then the last item is equipment. And so it's going to be using some of the equipment. So you may want to refer back to that PowerPoint that has some pictures on it. In this first part here, you've got scenarios or description, and you're writing the piece of lab equipment that would be most useful for the following. All right, so go back and look at the descriptions, and the piece that says hold or has hold in it is going to give you the clue to put here. You know, which one talked about crushing, that's the piece you would use here, and so forth. Then down here, you're labeling the pictures of these pieces of lab equipment. And so again, this and the other one is due tomorrow. So if all that you get done today is the notes and the video, then that's great. You'll have to complete these two tomorrow. I'm going to take you through a virtual lab. I'm looking at purchasing a subscription to, and I'm going to see how people like it. I kind of have to demo it to you until we purchase it, and then you would be able to go through and do it. And that's probably what we're going to do tomorrow, and it'll go along with the safety and equipment material. So are there any questions? Again, it's very, very important you keep up with your assignments daily. If you've already gotten behind, make sure you use time to get caught up. Check your Canvas grades. Right now, they're going to be fairly low because there's a lot of missing assignments across the board in all my classes. Remember, I put a 0 in just so you get a real picture of what your grade is like if you don't do that assignment. And then once you turn it in, I will grade it. I don't take off late points. I started out thinking I would, but I'm not. I just want you to get the work in and do the best you can. And remember, if you miss a Google Meet, you need to watch the recording. And so usually by 2 o'clock, I have the recordings up. And if you need the recording and I don't have it up, shoot me an email to remind me. I may have been in a meeting or something and have forgotten. So if there's no questions, that is all that I have.